So, thank you very much for coming today, and thank you to our audience at home tuning in to AARP's Fraud Watch Network televised forum. My name is Jane Margison. I am the Communications Director with AARPMaine, and it's my pleasure to be here today. We're going to be talking a lot about scams and fraud and these terrible crimes that rob millions and millions of Americans across the country every year of literally billions of dollars. These crimes are very serious. Scam artists are creative and they are relentless. They will stop at nothing to separate each one of us from our hard-earned money. Every time we think we've stopped one scam, there may be 10 or 15 more that will come up. It's very difficult to prosecute these crimes, but working together, each one of us can be our own best consumer watchdog. Each one of us can play an important role in stopping these crimes by being fraud fighters ourselves. So today we're going to talk about some of the trends and behaviors associated with fraud and scams. We're going to delve into what we call the con artist playbook. We're going to talk about some of the ways we can all learn to spot scams, because if you can spot a scam, you can stop it. And we're also going to talk about prevention strategies and some of the resources available to each of us. AARP's Fraud Watch Network is part of our more than 50-year legacy in protecting the financial security of every American as we age. Our founder was a retired school teacher named Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus. She founded AARP in 1958 to do just that. This is part of her legacy, and this is part of our mission to protect financial security for everyone so we can all age with dignity. Stopping scams and being aware of fraud and finding ways to combat these crimes is just part of that mission. So let's begin by thinking a little bit about some of the fraud trends that are so apparent right now. One of them we call phantom riches. Probably most of you have heard about this, where somebody says you've won the lottery or you should invest in this wonderful financial opportunity and you'll be rich before you know it. But of course, they want you to pay something up front. There's a price to pay, and very often that can be tens of thousands of dollars out of your pocket that goes straight into the pocket of this thief. We're also, very susceptible to profiling, particularly with all of the information that is now so easy to find online about each and every one of us. Those of us who use social media or even through email or LinkedIn, or if we're looking for a job, it can actually be quite easy for a con artist to create quite an accurate profile about us, making it very easy for them to dupe us into thinking that what they have to sell or who they are is actually legitimate, when of course it is not. Scarcity is another one. They'll make you think that there are only 4 left, there are only 2 left. If you don't act now, you're going to miss out. And they get you into a heightened emotional state, so you're not thinking clearly anymore. Your logic has gone out the window, and instead of thinking logically, you're thinking emotionally. This is a very dangerous place to be. Source credibility is another trend. They might even use a celebrity or somebody well known to us to promote a product or a service and make us think that this is actually a great idea that we invest in this. But that's another way that we really need to take a step back and think, is this too good to be true? That old adage, it probably is if it seems as though it is. And then, of course, there's fear and intimidation. Many people don't realize that these people can actually become very abusive if they do not get what they want. We have undercover tapes and hundreds of hours of interviews with convicted con artists who talk about the ways that they have duped every single person across America who's been a victim of these crimes and how they do it. They do it because they think we're easy targets. We're victims already ready for their plucking, and that's not right. Each one of us can be a fraud fighter. Each one of us can take a stand, and that's what we're going to do today, is learn some of the tricks of the trade so we can stop them in their tracks. So, what are the common denominators about victims? This is what the scam artists themselves say. Victims get easily excited. The prospect of making some extra money or a lot of money or winning something or investing something can get everybody very excited. Your heart might start pounding, might even break into a sweat. Those are all red flags that something is afoot, and you should be very careful and tread carefully there and take a step back and think, now wait a minute, what is happening? That's a big red flag. Also, victims stop considering why this may be a scam. They get so caught up in the emotion of it that they start just believing everything that they're hearing. And also, it's always the con artist asking all the questions. And very often, they may be asking questions that are very inappropriate. How much is your mortgage? When did your husband die? How many children do you have? They'll start delving deeper and deeper into your own history so that they're creating that profile all the while so they know which buttons to push that are going to make you say yes when they finally say, we need you to send us money. Victims also stop reading information. They stop doing their own research. Would you actually buy a house that you had never seen? Would you buy a car that you maybe didn't even know what the mileage was or whether it really was the best model for your family? Probably not. But if you're in that heightened emotional state, and that's what you're getting closer and closer to saying, yes, I'm going to send you my hard-earned money, even though I've never met you, I don't know anything about you, but I'm going to do it because you say it's a good deal. Well, we all need to take a step back from that and reconsider. So recognizing these red flags, that's one of the best ways that we can be a great fraud fighter ourselves and help protect ourselves and our families. If you're feeling pressured and the time is running out, or they're making it sound too good to be true, or if there's some kind of upfront processing fee or some fee that you need to wire, if you're looking for a job and they say, oh, well, you need to wire us money in order to expedite your application, those are all red flags. And we'll talk about some of those a little bit later on. And then some of the prevention strategies that really make good common sense for all of us, no matter what the situation. Never make a buying decision when you're in a heightened emotional state. And that can be tricky because sometimes life throws some curveballs at us. Maybe we've recently lost our job, or maybe a family member has passed away, or maybe we're just experiencing some kind of a health crisis, or any number of things that already have us feeling a little less than 100%. Well, that puts us immediately into a vulnerable state. So if that's happening to you, if you're experiencing something like that anyway, and then you get a phone call from somebody pressuring you into doing something, just say no. Just hang up the phone and know that you're really not in a situation where it would make much sense for you to be making a decision like that at that time. Make sure you ask a lot of questions. Don't let them control the conversation. You ask a couple of questions and throw some things out there and make sure that you're really getting the information. Take the control out of their hands, right back into yours where it belongs. And read information, do your research. If somebody's trying to sell you something and make it sound like it's so wonderful and you're going to be rich as soon as you sign on the dotted line and wire $10,000 to them, well, do some research, take a step back again, make sure that this really is a good investment, talk to a friend, even call the authorities and let them know what is going on, just so that you're not making this decision by yourself. And some people find it very useful to actually develop a refusal script so that when they get, because we've all gotten them, right? We all get these phone calls. I get them practically daily from somebody trying to sell me something or telling me my computer's broken and only they can fix it for me. So develop a refusal script. It might just be, I'm not interested, and hang up. But the point is, disengage. Take back that control that is rightfully yours. So we're going to go over some more of these issues, but I'd very much like to take some questions from the audience today so we can hear what your concerns are and see how I can best arm you with the defenses that will make you a great fraud fighter. And I hope you will take this information back with you to your own friends and your own families. And please do report if you are a victim of a crime, or if you think that you've been a victim, or you suspect something. please do report it to the authorities. It's so important. These crimes are very underreported, and it makes it very difficult if the authorities are working without all of us participating and helping them and each other to stay safe.
Tell me how identity theft works.
Absolutely. Identity theft is actually the top scam in the state of Maine, so I'm very glad that you asked that question. Identity theft occurs when somebody steals enough information, including your social security number and usually some other personal information, and can literally pretend to be you. They can access your credit report and start spending. They may get a loan in your name, they may buy a car in your name, they may just take your credit cards and spend, but the ultimate price is the one that you pay as the victim of this dreadful crime. It can take years to unravel. It can ruin your credit history. And identity theft, just so you know how prevalent it is, every 3 seconds there's a new victim of identity theft somewhere in the United States. It's a huge problem, and I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to make sure you keep your social security number as safe as you possibly can, because that's where it starts.
What's the best way to protect myself from online fraud?
Online fraud is one of the fastest growing forms of scams and fraud across the United States, and of course here in Maine as well. The best way is to be your own best watchdog. We all like to get emails. It can be quite fun, and some of them look like they may have some opportunities hidden in there, or a big sale at a store or something like that, and it can be very tempting. But it's much better if you actually go directly to a website rather than open a link within an email, because those links are often bogus sites, and you won't know it because they'll look legitimate. But once you go through to that site and start putting in any personal information, then thieves can actually see exactly what you're doing and they can steal your information. It's very important too, if you do use social media, be very careful about what information you are actually putting on Facebook or LinkedIn or any of those sites that can be an awful lot of fun to use. But for thieves trolling the internet for fresh victims, you're giving them everything they need to create a great profile about you. So make sure that if you're using those sites, that you're being very careful to have as many security protocols in place. So common sense certainly prevails, but just be very diligent about looking at your email. And I will remind everybody at home and everybody in our studio audience today that your bank or the IRS or any entity of that nature will not send you an email asking you to verify personal information. It is not how they do business. If they need to verify something with you, they will contact you by good old US mail. They are not going to send you an email. Do not believe it if you see one. It's a bogus email. Is there another question, please? Yes, ma'am.
I've heard of the grandparent scam. How does that work?
The grandparent scam really breaks my heart, because it really does prey on victims' desire to help somebody in need. And in this case, what happens is someone will pretend to be a grandchild and will call an elderly person and say that they are their grandson or their granddaughter and they're in terrible trouble, or they've been arrested, or they're overseas and they've run out of money, or any number of things like this. And they will say, please don't tell my parents, please don't tell them. Oh, grandma, would you just please send me the money that I need? And the money is usually a lot. It's usually $7, $10, $18, $25,000. It's a huge amount of money. And unfortunately, many people fall prey to this because it does sound legitimate. And again, this goes back to their ability to profile. How do they know the name of your grandchild? How do they know that maybe the grandchild is even traveling, let's say in Spain, or something about them that makes you believe that this is actually legitimate? And the best thing that you can do is you can do a couple of things. First of all, you can try to verify the information yourself. Why not ask them a couple of questions and just say, what is my maiden name, or what is the name of, the first street that we lived on, or something that only your grandchild would know. And chances are the person on the other end of the line is not going to know, and that's the end of it. But you can also just hang up and call your grandson or your granddaughter and verify that they are in fact fine. But those things to spot with the grandparent scam include that they're usually trying to make you make a decision very quickly. So already you're getting into that heightened emotional state. They want you to wire money immediately. Only wiring money will do, so that they can get the money immediately. And then there's the secrecy. Don't tell anybody. Those are all red flags that this is in fact a scam. Another question, yes.
How do con artists succeed at tricking so many people?
Con artists are, as I mentioned earlier, they are incredibly creative and they are relentless. And if something doesn't work on you, they're going to try it on you or 10 of you until they make it work. This is actually what they do for a living. Most of us who work, we have legitimate jobs, we go to the office, we do our work, and we go home. This is what they do for a living. They literally spend their days making phone calls, sending bogus emails, and roping as many people into these situations as they possibly can. And they do it through something they call getting people under the ether. That's what they call it. The ether is that heightened emotional state we've been talking about, where your heart is beating and they've gotten you to stop thinking logically. They've wrapped everything in so much emotion that all you can think about is how you're going to spend the money, how you're going to leave a legacy to your kids and your grandkids, how you're going to get your grandson out of jail, how you're going to get involved in an investment that sounds so wonderful, and you're going to be rich and your troubles are over. And before you know it, you're not thinking well, and they've taken control of that conversation, either by the phone or through email, or in some cases, people actually come to your door. But what you have to remember is that you still can take the control right back. There's actually one con artist who, during an interview when he was caught, we had undercover tapes from him, and he said, "If you don't want to make up your mind, that's where I come in. I'll make up your mind for you." And that's exactly what they want to do. So it's our responsibility collectively as consumers to be very careful and learn to recognize those signs, because we can take a step back, we can figure it out and say, no, I'm not going to send you my hard-earned money. I don't even know who you are. I've never heard of you. I've never heard of this company or this scheme, or how can I win the lottery when I never even entered? You have to start thinking logically again, then you can beat them at their own game. Is there another question? Yes, sir.
Could you talk a little bit about lottery schemes and how those work?
Indeed, the lottery scheme is probably one of the oldest schemes out there. I don't know if any of you in the audience or anybody watching us from home has had that magic phone call that sounds so wonderful that you've won $50 million or $25 million, or pick any number you like. It all sounds so wonderful, doesn't it? To think that maybe you don't have to scrimp so much, and maybe you can leave that legacy to your kids and your grandkids that you always wanted to do. But think again. First of all, it's actually illegal for a U.S. citizen to play a foreign lottery. A lot of people don't realize that. But even if this is coming from within the country, you have to remember, did you actually enter the lottery? And what is it that they're asking you to do? Usually they say, oh, you've won $50 million. All you need to do is send us the taxes and the administration costs, and that's just $30,000. So that won't be much once you get your $50 million, will it? Well, a legitimate lottery, if you've actually won something, you don't even know a postage stamp. So the moment you hear that you owe something to get something, hang right up and call the authorities. It's a scam. There are certain clues to determine whether something is legitimate or not. First of all, as we just mentioned with the lottery, did you actually enter something, and why are you having to pay for something? If you're being asked to wire money to someone you don't know for whatever reason, that's a huge red flag right there. Also, if you're finding that they're asking you to make a decision in a big hurry and really not even giving you time to think about it at all, so that there comes in that emotional state, that ether again, that's another huge red flag that this simply is not legitimate. You should always be able to have time to think about it. You should be able to speak with your spouse or your best friend or your child or whoever you might like to see if this is really a good investment for you. And if they start saying, oh, but we only have 2 left, and if you don't make up your mind right now, that scarcity piece that we talked about earlier, that's another big red flag. All of these are getting you out of your comfort zone, if you will. They're making you think a different way. And again, they're putting the control into the hands of the thieves. So you need to just take a look at those deceptive practices and recognize them. As I said earlier, if you can spot a scam, then you can stop it. Another question?
How can I keep my credit cards safe?
One of the best things you can do is, first of all, if you do have many different credit cards, why not just take one with you? If, God forbid, somebody actually does steal your purse, at least you've only lost one of them and you can put a stop to that pretty quickly. But if they've taken 5 or 6 or 7, that could have more dire consequences for you and take a lot more time to try to address the situation. I also encourage people to please do check your credit card statements. Make sure you recognize every single charge. Even if there's something small on there, maybe 50 cents or $1, if you don't recognize where that came from, call your credit card company immediately, because it actually might be what we call a test charge, where a thief has gotten a hold of your number, however they did it, and they're just testing to make sure that the number is actually legitimate. And then once they find out that it is, then they're going to spend big. So be very careful. Take a look at your credit card statements, and that goes for your bank statements as well. Make sure you're really looking at those every month and verifying the charges. Make sure that you do get your own credit report. You are entitled to a free copy of your credit report every single year from the 3 major credit bureaus. That's free to you. It's a service that you're entitled to. It's a great way to stay on top of what is happening with your own credit history, and you can start to recognize if there's something fishy going on and take steps to address that. Is there another question? Yes, sir.
My Medicare card has my Social Security number on it. How can I protect myself?
Your Social Security number is really so important to keep safe, and it is on your Medicare card. So unless you are going to a new doctor and you know that you are going to need your Medicare card as proof of insurance, don't take it with you. Don't keep it in your wallet. Keep it somewhere safe at home. Yes.
I'm currently looking for work, and I heard there's a lot of fraud online associated with that. How do I know that the job I am applying for is legitimate?
Yes, online applications are another place where con artists can really have a field day with your information if you let them. And if you're looking for a job and it's the kind of thing where you're actually in between jobs, so maybe you're already a bit concerned about your finances, remember that immediately puts you in a slightly vulnerable state emotionally, and you may be more susceptible to somebody saying, I've got such a great job for you and it's going to pay, $50 an hour and you're going to make so much money. Well, have they met you? Have you actually shared really your credentials with them? Have they interviewed you? Take a look at that. How much are they offering to you before they even know your skill set? That's a big red flag, actually, because a lot of people just say, oh yes, that sounds great, when there hasn't actually been the appropriate professional interaction. So that's something to look out for. Also, are they asking you to pay for something through the application process? That would be very inappropriate if they were, and I would say that's a big red flag if they're saying that they can expedite your application if you just send them $100 or $300 or wire this money to them. That's another big red flag that you should look out for. And just make sure that there is an opportunity at certain times in the job application process, legitimately, for an employer to say, I want to do a background check on you. That's not uncommon these days. And at that point, they may ask you for your social security number. However, that should only be happening when you are in the final stages. Maybe you're a finalist for the job, or maybe they've already offered the job to you. That's the only time they should be asking for that information. If they're asking that information right up front, don't apply for that job. It is definitely a scam.
If someone asks for my social security number, do I have to give it to them? Like the doctor or the utility company? Do they really need that information?
Your social security number is needed by certain entities at different times. For example, when we all pay our taxes, and you do have to put your social security number on your tax return. If you're applying to get a mortgage, or you want to open a Macy's account or another store, that is a time when your social security number would be needed. But what you might discover is that, and I would encourage everyone to do this, when anyone other than those specific incidences occurs, if somebody is asking you for a social security number, it's probably for their own convenience, to easily identify who you are and pull up your information. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're fraudulent, but it does mean that they could actually get that information a different way. So my advice is always ask why they are asking for it. Why do you need that number? Including your doctor. Your doctor actually does not need your social security number. If you've provided your proof of insurance, either through Medicare or whoever you have insurance with, that's all they need. They don't need your social security number. So keep your number safe. Question why somebody is asking for it, and verify that that is the only way that they can get the information they need. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I want to thank Dirigo Pines for hosting this televised forum for the AARP Fraud Watch Network. We hope today that we would be able to share with you some of the common trends and the scams that are out there, so that all of us here in this room and anyone tuning in can be their own best watchdog and become a fraud fighter themselves. Please do share this information with your family and your friends. Teach them how they too can spot fraud so they can put a stop to it. There is no reason to let these fraudsters take control. We can all take control right back again and keep our money safe where it belongs. AARP's long-standing history in protecting the financial security of all Americans as we age is part of our mission and part of the reason why we initiated the AARP Fraud Watch Network. You can go to aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network and sign up for all of our wonderful resources. You can find out the con artist's latest tricks, and there is a toll-free number to call if you have specific questions, or if you're looking for local resources, or you think you've been a victim, or you just want to get some more information. But please know that you can take control. You can be a great fraud fighter. And I want to thank everyone for coming here today. Thank you so much.